Welcome back to 10 Minutes of Hiding Wisdom with your host, Manal Bukhari. Our today's guest has spent his last 9 years building user experience for consumers and enterprise businesses. His skills and responsibilities range from product management, user experience, design, product design, growth, and branding. He loves people, and I'm pretty sure people do love him in return. Let's welcome Jess on 10 Minutes of Hiding Wisdom. Hi, Jess. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you.
Of course. So, can you tell us about where you're currently working, what your role is?
Yeah, I'm a senior product manager at OpenSpace.ai. We help digitize construction sites with 360 cameras, AI, and computer vision. Specifically, I work on a product where we automatically identify and quantify materials that are being installed on construction projects so that we can tell them how quickly the project is progressing or if there are delays. Yeah, it's
That sounds wonderful. As in, like, that does help with efficiency and everything. But for example, as in, like, I'm just curious, where did the idea come from to create something like this?
yeah. The original idea came from one of the founders when they were thinking about moving from Boston to San Francisco, and they wanted to rent an apartment, but there wasn't a good way at that time to view apartments or houses remotely. Since then, we've seen tools such as Matterport come online. You probably see those on like Zillow or Craigslist. But at the time, there wasn't really a good solution. And so they started playing with cameras and computer vision and realized that there was a really big need in the construction industry. And so instead of kind of going into the real estate market, which was kind of crowded, they started to focus on an underserved market, which is construction.
Well, so it came from a need, they decided to explore it and everything, which is all about problem solving and identifying a need to which you cater to them. So things worked out for them. That's really good. So can you tell us about, as in, like, how has the pandemic affected your company? Are you guys going through any setbacks? Are you guys hiring?
Yeah, good questions. Um, the pandemic had a interesting impact on open space and the product. Um, Before the pandemic, customers were using the technology mainly to document the existing condition of a construction site, almost as an insurance policy in case something happened down the road. During the pandemic, construction went digital and online. And so, much like we work remotely, construction teams started to work remotely. And so, they couldn't travel to their sites anymore. Owners couldn't fly over the country to view what was going on in their projects. So they started looking for solutions like open space. And we saw adoption and usage jump up dramatically last March and April. But it hasn't gone away now that people are going back to construction site. They've kind of fully moved to remote collaboration for construction. So that's been good. I mean, in terms of the impacts on the company, we went fully remote in November. So while we'll still have a small office in San Francisco, we're hiring people from all over the country and world right now. And we are hiring across all our teams. We have a lot of open roles on engineering. We have a open role as for an associate product manager. A lot of roles in marketing, sales, customer success, and probably some other teams I'm not even remembering right now.
Wow. So you guys, things worked out for you. The pandemic was a blessing in disguise for your company, which is good because a lot of businesses struggled. So your company was definitely on the lucky side of the end. So just can you tell us about, as in, like, you did mention that open space and hiring and everything, but what do you think is something that candidates that are applying to jobs, for example, to open space, would should do that would increase their chances of getting into that company? Like, what are some things that you look for in candidates when they apply to your company specifically?
Yeah, one thing that really stands out to me is when a candidate has done research to show that they actually want to work at that company. So whether that's a cover letter or the email you send to someone or a LinkedIn you send to someone um, at the company, lots of everyone has a website. Lots of companies have a free trial or a demo or video. Everyone has competitors. If you can just come up with like one little idea or piece of feedback or something that shows, or an interesting question that shows you've actually taken the time to think about, this place that you want to work at and how you could impact and contribute. That really shows a lot of initiative, which is, the type of people that we want to hire. We're not a we move fast like a lot of companies, and we want people who are looking for the problems to solve and not being waiting to be told what to do.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense, especially because you guys are remote and everything. So rather than micromanaging, you would want someone to take initiative themselves and lead the team rather than being like, oh, no, you have to do this, you have to do that. So I can definitely see that. So thank you for sharing that. So you mentioned that you went remote last November. Were there a lot of challenges when you moved remote? Was there a lot of challenges hiring the right talent? Like, what are some challenges that you specifically face when you're hiring talent globally? Like, what are some things that you wish that there were solutions to in the first place?
Good questions. So I actually joined Open Space in October. So I went through the interview process remotely and was onboarded remotely, and I've hired and onboarded people remotely. Um, I mean, the one of the biggest challenges is not being able to have that in-person human interaction, where you just automatically feel connected to someone because you're in the same room, you can read their body language. And so to do that, we try to find ways to get to know each other better, even if it's silly, just with like icebreakers at the beginning of recurring meetings, silly questions during stand up, which helps form a little bit more of a bond. I think other bigger challenges are, well, I should say that since we were remote from the pandemic, and actually the teams have been really productive and the company was doing well, we felt confident about moving fully remote. But I think challenges we're running into while scaling and being remote is, making sure that everyone who joins has access to all the information that's in the head of the CEO or other employees. And so making sure that we're documenting things in an easy to find way. And also making sure that people understand how decisions are made. I think that, if you're in person, it's a little bit easier to see how those decisions are being made. But when things are happening on Slack or in Zoom calls, that, you're not walking by a conference room and seeing the leadership team in there. Um, it's kind of sometimes things might catch you by surprise. And so I think a little bit more frequent and clear and transparent communication is important, and helping people understand how you arrived at decisions. It requires a lot more work, to be honest. It requires more Zoom meetings, more emails, but it it does enable, your teams to be more productive and spend, more time in their chair working so that they can, and less time commuting, so that they can spend more time outside of work doing the things that they love or
Yeah.
spending time with the people they love.
I mean, everything does have its pros and cons, whereas on-site work would have its pros, it might have its cons as well. So I can definitely see the flip side of each side of the coin, which does make sense. But then again, do you think are you a remote person or are you an on-site person? Just out of curiosity.
I really like remote work. I like the flexibility that it provides. I mean, I don't mind, working remotely with people or collaborating remotely, as long as we get to get together in person once a quarter, with your team, and then, once every 6 months or so with the whole company. Um, yeah, I do like the flexibility also that it gives you for your day. You can, you're at home, you can spend time with your family or pets
That makes
and
sense.
doing activities that are important to you outside of work.
Well, you're definitely a remote person, and I would consider myself a remote person as well. So thank you for sharing that. Well, Jess, it was a pleasure learning from you about open space, and I can definitely see that you guys are hiring for a lot of roles. So if people reach out, I will definitely forward them to you, specifically if they're looking for jobs. But thank you so much for being a guest. It was an honor having you.